Welcome to this short personal video celebrating Don's 60th birthday party held on January the 7th, 2007. It also marked Don's retirement as a school psychologist from the Western Australian Department of Education. This is Ken Liebeck, my brother-in-law, through my wife. Her sister Robin, with Ken, run a large wheat farm out by Meriden, 200 miles to the east of Perth. My brother-in-law Ken Richmond, who flew from Ontario for a 2-week holiday to be present at the birthday party. This is my niece Britt Liebeck, who helped take pictures and serve food during the party. Thank you, Britt. These beautiful roses come from our back garden. We had 4 or 5 tubs of beer, including premium beers such as Crownies and some European imports. There was also bottles of liquor and wine. No one went thirsty. My wife, Lily O, does not appear in this video because she does not like her photograph being taken and does not want to be posted on the internet. She bought 60 helium balloons, one for each year of my age. They were anchored in the pool. It's a very hot day, and by the end of the day most of them had burst with very loud bangs, scaring everyone. My nephew Curtis Liebeck, who took all these photos and helped serve food. Thank you, Curtis. 2 friends, Don Weber, who I met originally when teaching at Rockingham High School in 1976. Don had come over from Flint, Michigan to teach school as well, and we started off at the same school. With him is a Canadian friend of mine, Hans Small, who lives in Netherlands. These Yvonnes are getting into the spirit of the party. The Yvonne on the right is flying back to London, England in 2 hours. This is Jean Deutschman, who flew over to attend the wedding of Yvonne and Anthony Deutschman. Anthony is a Canadian friend who migrated to Australia about 15 years ago. Here's Anthony Deutschman to the right, with the other gentleman standing being Steve, VK6CS, an amateur radio operator with whom I talk regularly. I'm in the foreground, seated in the wheelchair, and the older gentleman is John Deutschman, Anthony's father. These 3 people are all radio amateurs. Jeff in the foreground, VK6NX, Peter Barrett, VK6FUN, in the middle, and Robin, VK6XRE, to the left. Going from left to right, we have Ken Liebeck, Jenny Barrett, Peter's wife, Robin's wife, whose name escapes me at the moment, and Ken Richmond. On the left is Richard Smedick, who works as an attendant care facilitator with me, and he's talking to Hans Small. Here we have photographs of Terry, a friend of my wife Lily Old. Terry used to be Lily's secretary when she was principal at South Lakes Primary School. And she's talking to Caroline Small, wife of Hans Small. In the background are some photographs that I took way back in 1976 or 1975, traveling overland through Asia. Two fellow educational psychologists or school psychologists who worked with me at the Pugh Fremantle District Education Office. To the right, Philip Blacklock, and to the left, Roy. A happy-looking group. My friend Mark Pugh, in the wheelchair on the left, talks with his girlfriend, Rebecca Shaw. The gentleman with the red shirt is our next-door neighbor, Mr. Thomas, David Thomas. And the two gentlemen to the left are radio amateurs, Steve and Jeff. David Thomas talks to my sister, Margaret Richmond, who flew out on a 2-week holiday with Ken to attend the birthday party. Getting into the spirit of things with Jenny Barrett. Terry, Robin's wife, enjoys a joke with Ken Richmond and Robin. We were fortunate that Sunday afternoon was a beautiful day in the low 30s with a bright blue sky, absolutely cloudless. The party started at 12 and finished at 6 in the afternoon, with food being served the entire time. Ann Diggins, wife of Martin Diggins, a fellow radio amateur operator, talks with Hans Small. My nephew Curtis Lebeck gets the finger from Hans Small. Curtis and Caroline. Curtis is actually staying in Perth, attending a boarding school, Scott College, only 3 or 4 blocks from our house. Richard Smetty chats with Ken Richmond. Britt Lebeck chats with Jenny Shaw. I'm not quite sure who's signing the guest register. I think it's Peter McIntosh's wife from across the street. From the left standing is Carol Grist and her daughter Zanina playing with Brett Lebeck. I'm in the foreground. Mark Pillage is looking very relaxed. From the left, Ann Diggins, Martin Diggins, VK6NJ, fellow amateur radio operator. Peter McIntosh, who has the house across the street, directly opposite us, number 17. We're number 17. I think he's number 16. And here's me in the wheelchair. Carol Grist chats with Richard Smetty. Getting into serious discussion, Jenny Shaw on the left, Ken Lebeck, and to the right, Peter Barrett. A few of the group that chose to sit in the garden. A lot of people stayed on the veranda. Noel Woodley and his wife. Noel was a teacher with me at Safety Bay High School, where I worked as a school psychologist. for 5 years. We then both moved on to Warrenbro Community High School, where I worked for 6 years, and Noel Woodley became the associate principal. Not a very good photograph of my sister Margaret, with one of Lily Olds, my wife's, paintings in the background. Britt Liebeck looks contemplative, while Ken Richmond heads for the beer in our fridge. I must admit, Ken's beginning to look a little bit pickled in this photograph. Our dining room table with Terry on the left talking to Robin, and my photographs on the wall. This is actually quite a good view of our house, showing the large lounge room. Jenny Barrett on the left talked with Ken and Margaret Richmond, while Britt Liebeck chooses a CD in the background. Our gas marble fireplace at the back. From the foreground, Martin Diggins and Steve and Mark talks with Mick and Mark Howland, both of whom suffer muscular dystrophy and are unfortunately dependent on respirators. A rather nice photo of Noel Woodley with his wife. The upstairs discussion group, Jenny Shaw to the left, Ken Liebeck talks with Mitch, and Tammy with Peter Barrett looking on. The only person in this photograph not already named is Colin Truman, VK6ACT, another ham operator. He's on the left with Robin. Mick and Mark Howland talk with Mark Pugh, with Steve in the background. Mrs. Woodley, and unfortunately I don't know her first name, talks with Richard Smedick. Margaret is kept busy serving food and tidying up. Jenny Shaw after another drink, I think. Ken Liebeck puts forward his point of view with Mitch on the left, and I think Mark, as well as myself. Mark Pillage with Mitch. No shortage of cans at this party. Ken fetches a bottle of white wine. Ken Liebeck with his wife Robin Liebeck, Lily Old's sister. Their 2 children are Britt and Curtis Liebeck, and they run a wheat farm out by Muntagen. Well, shipshape by 8 p.m. Thanks, viewer, if you've watched this program, for sticking through. I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you very much for coming.